The next step in our practice sheet is a value scale. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. You can go from a very, very light color all the way down up to a very, very dark color. So basically a value scale is steps of that color. Light to sort of light, to medium, to sort of dark, to dark. And it should be nice and even steps. Now, the ones that are on the lighter side are called tints. So a lighter version of a color is a tint. And for our purposes, the way that we are going to make tints is by adding white paint. If we were using watercolor, maybe you would just add clear water. If you were doing colored pencils, maybe you would press lighter. But for our tempera paint, we're gonna add white. Now a shade is a darker version of the color. There's actually more options on making shades. The most obvious one is to add black. But in our project, we're gonna use other types of shades. You can also add brown. That works very well with yellow and orange in particular. And you can also sometimes use the complementary color. Complementary color is the color opposite the color wheel. So if I wanted to make yellow darker, I can add some violet to it and it will make it darker. If I want to make orange darker, I can add a little blue to it and it will make it darker. And we will definitely be using that on our actual project. But for our value scale, we're going to stick with white and black. I'm going to recommend for this that we do a nice medium kind of color, and that is red. So we're going to practice making a value scale of red. So therefore, to start, we're going to add a little red to our palette. Okay, and in the middle, you're just going to put the pure red. Now we want to go a little bit lighter and much lighter. So we are going to need white. So to start, make sure your brush is clean. And we're actually going to go with the lightest one first. And you're going to take a big blob of white and just a tiny bit of red. Tiny bit of red and mix it together. Look how quickly that turned pink. Pink is a tint of red. And it's really just the tiniest bit of red that did that. So you want your lightest tint you want it to be a really baby pink kind of color. So now for this one, I want an in-between color. So I go back and I take my red and I add a little bit more. And I add a little bit more. Till you've got a color that is in between. Not too close to either one of the ones around it. Okay, now when we move to our shades, you have to be really careful that there is no white left on your brush, because instead of getting a nice shade, we'll get what's called a tone, where it looks gray, because white and black together make gray. So I want to go to the sink and actually wash my brush. So I'm going to take a little bit of black. And now I'm going to do this one to the right of my red. And I'm going to take a nice dry brush, good amount of red, and just a tiny bit of black. And that should be able to get you a slight shade. It should definitely be darker than that. If you put it down on your paper and you decide it's not quite dark enough, you can add another just dot of black. So now we want to go pretty dark. So a good amount of red. Still don't put too much black, but little by little add black to it. You don't want this to just look like black. You still want it to look like a dark red. Should be a nice deep color. Let's try that. Maybe not quite dark enough. So I'll add some more black. There we go. You want it to look distinct from the other color. There you go. I've created a nice value scale from a very light red to a very dark red with 5 different colors.